Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Tuesday, 22nd April 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. China is enacting retaliatory measures against the U.S., sanctioning U.S. officials, lawmakers, and NGO leaders in response to actions concerning Hong Kong. The country is cautioning other nations against entering into trade agreements with the U.S. that could harm Chinese interests, threatening retaliation against any country aligning with the U.S. to isolate Beijing. This includes implementing 125% levies on imports of American goods, a direct response to U.S. tariffs. China insists that U.S. trade tactics will ultimately fail and urges countries to resist U.S. trade coercion. Costco, a Chinese shipping company, has voiced concerns that U.S. levies could disrupt global shipping. Economically, China is grappling with challenges related to deflation and tariffs imposed by the U.S., threatening trade and potentially impacting Chinese workers disproportionately. The People's Bank of China has maintained its key loan prime rates, with the one-year loan rate at 3.1% and the five-year loan rate at 3.6%. Despite global turmoil, China's onshore stocks have shown resilience, supported by state-backed buying of ETFs and positive economic data. The Chinese yuan is gaining popularity in payments, potentially challenging the U.S. dollar's dominance amid volatility in the U.S. Treasury market. In the tech sector, CATL, a Chinese battery maker, has developed advanced electric vehicle batteries that offer faster recharging, greater range, and improved cold weather performance at a lower cost. U.S. export controls on NVIDIA's AI chip sales to China are expected to benefit domestic AI chip makers like Huawei. The humanoid robot sector in China is advancing, with companies like Unitree and Agibot planning mass production, targeting over 1,000 units in 2025. Chinese tech companies are expanding the AI services market using the Model Context Protocol, which is becoming a standard for AI integration. JD plans to add 100,000 delivery riders in China to compete with Meituan. Finally, China is focused on achieving self-sufficiency in soybean production to reduce its reliance on U.S. imports. Turning to the United States, the country is facing retaliation from China, which is responding to U.S. sanctions on Chinese officials, lawmakers, and NGO leaders over Hong Kong issues. China is warning other countries against making trade deals with the U.S. that are detrimental to China's interests. The U.S.'s export controls on NVIDIA's AI chip sales to China are expected to benefit domestic AI chip makers like Huawei. China is implementing 125% levies on imports of American goods in response to U.S. tariffs. In Taiwan, TSMC is warning of limits to its ability to keep its AI chips from China. India is currently hosting U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance for 4 days of talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, focusing on trade and tariffs. India hopes to avoid new U.S. tariffs and is pushing for a bilateral trade agreement with the United States. Foreign institutional investors, Felizanedin, 670 crore. The Sensex and Nifty 50 are both up, driven by a strong banking sector and positive investor sentiment, with investor enthusiasm for Indian lenders surging to a record high. Simultaneously, SEBI has issued advisories to protect investors amid a rise in stock market fraud and a surge in trading accounts. India is one of 6 nations offering concessions on U.S. imports, potentially easing tensions with President Trump, while also boosting infrastructure spending to attract more investment. Continuum Green Energy has received SEBI approval for an IPO to raise 3,650 crore. and demand is surging in the transformer segment of India's power sector. Chipotle Mexican Grill is expanding into Mexico. This marks the first location south of the U.S. border for the popular chain. The company believes the Mexican market is ripe for expansion. They cite existing familiarity with Chipotle's ingredients. There is also a cultural appreciation for fresh food. This expansion comes despite current trade tensions. These tensions exist between the United States and Mexico. The Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing, HKEX, is considering shortening stock trading settlement times. This move aims to keep Hong Kong competitive with the United States and Canada, which have already made similar changes. The United Kingdom and Europe also plan to reduce settlement times. In the United States, anxieties are growing about foreign investors' confidence due to President Trump's proposed widespread tariffs. These U.S. risks may boost real estate markets in Asia and Europe. Separately, Pete Hegseth shared classified details about forthcoming strikes in Yemen via a Signal chat to his wife and brother. South Korea has detected a surge in foreign products, largely from China, falsely labeled as Korean exports. This tactic is intended to avoid U.S. tariffs. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele has suggested a prisoner swap with Venezuelan President Maduro. The exchange would involve Venezuelan deportees. Japan anticipates the Osaka World Expo, reminiscent of the 1970 exhibition that symbolized economic expansion and optimism. Globally, Asian markets are showing varied performance before the earnings announcements of major U.S. tech firms. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.